Okay, welcome to our webinar Wednesday. And
Hi.
I see Sherry. Sherry, are you back? Sherry Hubbard is back, so we hope that, well, hopefully she'll be back here. My name is Scott Holohan, and I am an assistant to Don and to Kathy in the club retention area this year, and I did some club coaching last year. I am a member of two clubs in the Columbus area, one at COAT, Central Ohio Advanced Toastmasters, and also ExcelCom, and also am an area director in H73. So I want to introduce to you our speaker tonight, and she is an esteemed, distinguished Toastmaster. I put the esteemed in there because I think that was very appropriate, I think. Kathy Donavan is our District 40 Club Growth, I'm sorry, Program Quality Director. You were the Club Growth Director last year, I think. And you are the going to go over club advocacy today and discuss what club advocacy is as it compares to some of the other uh, club mentor or club opportunities to help them along in their journey. So with that, I will hand it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for the introduction. We're going to talk about club advocacy. It's something we started in D40 after we found out a few districts were doing it, and they were doing it because the clubs that were 13 to 19 members big could use some help, just like the clubs that were getting coaches at 12 and under. But they didn't really have a program at Toastmasters International for it. So a program was built at another district. I picked it up. We put it in place here using the same methods and framework that they did. And some other districts are actually watching what we're doing. So the Club Advocate module here for Webinar Wednesday was put together by Lisa Lee, who is a PS Division Director, and she's also chairing the Club Advocacy Program this year. Don Schulze, who is the Club Growth Director this year, and myself. So I'll go ahead and get into the PowerPoint presentation, and then we're going to talk a little bit about open houses here in a bit, which is one of the key activities that you do to help a club along. The purpose of club advocacy is to prevent clubs that are 13 to 19 members big from sliding to the point where they're 12 and under and require a coach. There aren't enough coaches for the clubs we have in the district. We have on average 40 to 50 clubs that require a coach. The coaching does give you the DTM credit, as I mentioned, but we're going to look at what incentives there are for you. And the district is providing these incentives. I'm looking for input from you today to see if you think these incentives are worth it. I'm always listening in these webinars. I think of it as an exchange. Hello, MML. Welcome to the program. We just started slide 1. So if any of these incentives seem practical to you, or if you have ideas for other ones, I'm listening, because we'll put together another club advocacy program next year. The advocacy program runs through the end of the Toastmaster year, because that's when we find out whether the clubs are distinguished, and that's the goal. We'll talk about it in a second. But the clubs between 13 and 19 members are allowed to have a club advocate. And the neat thing about that is that for the club coaches that are coaching clubs with 12 and under, they're not allowed to be a member of the club. They could join the club once they start coaching them if they feel that that's the best way to help guide the club back, but they're not allowed to be a member of the club when they're assigned. For club advocates, you are allowed to be a member of the club. And this is a leadership position where within the club, your main focus is getting the club to distinguish. So you're actually helping the officers and the club members to focus on that, what I would call a wildly important goal. If you've ever read the 4DX stuff by Sean Covey, who's Stephen Covey's son, there is a practice where if you make sure you have these wildly important goals in front of you, the focus becomes that of the goals and not all the other fluff. And so I think that that's one of the things that Club Advocate provides in the conversations in the club. So is there any questions about what a Club Advocate is at this point?
No,
No, I
ma'am.
put the information in there. Club advocates can be a member of the club initially, but club coaches cannot be a member of the club before the appointment.
Thank you. And I think we need to add that to the outline. I noticed it wasn't there today, so
Okay.
I'll put that in it. So the purpose of the Club Advocate, the primary goal is to get the club to distinguished, and that is where you have at least 5 DCP points. You can have up to 10. And the biggest thing is membership. We've noticed by and large that the one thing that prevents a club from being distinguished is membership. Now, membership, there are 2 points that provide you a point for membership, adding members, and that's the first 4 members you get a point, and the second 4 members you get a point. That still may not be enough to get you to distinguish, though. You have to have a prerequisite to your DCP points. Your prerequisite is that you either have 20 members or you've added 5 members to what you had as a base back on July 1st of that current Toastmaster year. So if you don't have that prerequisite, and I'm going to go to the dashboard and show you that in a little bit, how some of the clubs are faring. The other thing is to enhance the club experience. We've noticed that when clubs get coached either by an advocate or a club coach, that occasionally they do really well, they become distinguished, and then they fall off again. And that's indicative of the fact that the person helping the club came in and did a lot of rah, 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 but then the energy left. And the purpose of the club advocate and the club coach is to generate that excitement so it carries well beyond that year, and the methods that perhaps weren't being done in the club, the things that the improvements that they made, they need to carry on. They need to find a new Energizer bunny, so to speak. And if they are already a member of the club, then that makes it easier. You can use this for HPL, High Performance Leadership Project. In the High Performance Leadership Project, the kit's about $14. You order it, you do a little self-assessment, which is really pretty cool. And then you have a guidance committee that you meet with 5 times. You have an action committee. You don't do this alone. In fact, that helps the advocate program, I think, work really well if you're doing it as part of your HPL, because then you do get DTM credit for the HPL. But you still also are listed as a club advocate, and you can go to the club advocate meetings with Lisa and her team. The High Performance Leadership Project also has a vision speech, which you give in the club. So you're sharing the vision, and you can get input from the club, and then you get buy-in. And then when you give the results speech from your High Performance Leadership Project, everybody sees why you got the results you did. You can recap the steps it took to become distinguished, and then hopefully that the entire club will be on board for the following year. So we think that's a really good thing to do, is to pair those up. The incentives, you get a $25 TI certificate or D40. And the reason we offer D40, and this, we got this from another district as well, is so that you, the person, the club advocate, can get additional materials for yourself. It's a way of thanking you. The TI certificate, you can use that at Toastmasters International. I would order those, and we would either mail it to you or present it to you as an award in front of folks, which that's my preference for giving folks things that they've earned. The D40 can also be used at the district store to purchase Toastmasters International items when we have it at a conference or at a contest. And it can also be used for conference registration. So for the next spring conference, you get $25 off the conference, and that's pretty significant. If you want to do it for 2 clubs, you get $50. We're not limiting anybody. Probably practical to start with 1 club though. The incentive too is the knowledge that you help someone, and that you can have bragging rights, but you also know that you helped a club from going into oblivion. I helped several clubs back from starvation, one way to think about it. And I just got an email from somebody today on a club that I did that with, and they said, "Hey, we're at 18 now." They were very excited. And
Mhm.
just to hear somebody's excitement along those lines is a great feeling. That club only has 3 digits in its club number. That tells you how old that club is. And we really need to keep our clubs healthy and strong, especially the ones that have been around for years and years. You also are a part of what a few districts are doing. Some other districts are watching, as I mentioned. I get with the regional advisors from other districts, and they're starting to get really interested in this. So we are going to generate reports on how well we do as we move through the program, and we'd love for you to help us get those numbers up. The incentives for the clubs. There are some incentives that we put together where the club also gets some. There, the club and the advocate both should get some win-win. The club creates a success plan, and with that, they should have already created their success plans this year. If they haven't, that's probably why they're struggling. So one of the things that they can check off their list or feel very good about is the fact that they've now got a club success plan. If they schedule their quarterly open houses, we give them the supplies for the open houses. And I'm going to put that right here to make sure we talk about that. If you send a flyer to your open house to Don Schulze, and his email is at the bottom there, then he'll send you 10 guest packets. And these are the really nice ones with silver embossing on them. In fact, the Toastmasters was running out of them. They were on back order. I don't know if it's because D40 kept pirating them all, or the other districts started figuring out how wonderful they were. We also recommend, once you get the guest packets, that you slip in a special welcome letter from the president of the club. Welcome to our club, and I can send you examples of those things. There's a lot of things that Dawn and I can do if you just let us know where you're at with the club, and we can send you things and help you with it, because it's part of the marketing that the district is responsible for, and we do have money in the budget for it. So just to let you know that you're not signing up to spend money, you're signing up to spend time, quality time with the club, and help them be successful. So any questions? Oh, and the club gets a D40 certificate and D40 so that they can do things. And it could be that what some of the clubs did with their D40 is they got some of the workshops. One of them got the mentoring workshop. I think that one's $50 or something. And they handed me 2 D40 certificates, and they got the workshop. So now that they can put a really good formal mentoring program in there. So.
Hey, Kath, this is Scott. Quick question on the buddy club. So
Yeah.
if they don't want one particular person to be a club advocate, are you saying that there can be a club that can kind of team up and help another club? Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I'm saying. So sometimes it's hard for people to take leadership from somebody they've known.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier for them to take leadership from somebody who's from quote unquote out of town.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like somebody getting promoted from within the ranks at work, and why wasn't I promoted? They got promoted. Why are they better than I am? And there's hard
Right.
feelings and everything. So if you want to avoid that, then we can help find a buddy club. And a lot of times what we suggest to the buddy clubs, and we do this really often for the new clubs, that's one of the first things we do is we try to find them a buddy club in addition to their mentor. Um, we say, if you as the president have a question, you can call the other president. If you, vice president of education, have a question, call the other vice president of education. That way the officers have another officer that have their role. That way they don't feel like
Yeah.
they're out in the ocean all by themselves.
Peer-to-peer help. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that buddy clubs do is they can help make your contests very exciting and very fair. A lot of times you've heard the same people, and judges can tend to vote for the person that they've seen consistently deliver well, even though on that contest day they didn't. And you need to judge based on that contest day. So it really helps to bring in a buddy club to help with the contest. And particularly if you've got several new members, the buddy club person can be partnered with one of your new members to do, say, the ballots. And you need 2 people to do the ballots. So it's very comfortable if you're brand new and you've never done ballot counting before, working with somebody who has from the other club, and that frees up your members to actually be contestants. You,
Excellent. Yeah, what a great
yeah,
idea.
yeah. Any questions on that? Benefits for the clubs? Plus, they get to be distinguished. Okay. So I mentioned Dr. Lisa Lee. She's a past division director in Division B last year. And these open house kits are really cool. We call them booster bags. And there's not only those guest packets, but there's marketing materials that you can post. There's flyers. If you see something online that you want that we don't have in our open house kits, let us know. The club quality materials, those are the things that I will provide. And if you tell me what aspect of the club is sort of lacking that you're going for, then we can go after that. Each area director visits each club twice a year at a minimum, and next year we're going for 4 meetings a year. The reports that I see are great, but they don't really have anything but the one meeting. So the club advocate is going a little bit more often, and they're seeing patterns, or they're maybe, you know, the club is dressing things up when the area director gets there, and then it gets dressed down a little bit when they're not there. So the quality materials, if I know what it is that they're lacking, maybe they don't have a mentor program, I can send them sample mentor programs. Mentor programs are so important for keeping members around. It's just like any club sport. If you have a good defense, then you at least have tied because you've prevented the other team from scoring. So if you keep all your members, and I know that people move out of state or whatever, but if you keep all your members that you can, then you don't need to get that many more members. Does that make sense? So the club quality, I think, is so important to keeping members, and especially with the pathways coming up, and you know, people are a little bit hesitant to move into the new program for some. You know, I think it's important we stay on top of that and make sure they're getting value for their membership. So the other thing is the club advocates, they have contact with district leadership, and you know, through Lisa Lee and her team, and I think that that's a great way to get your name out there, and it's a possible stepping stone to other roles such as area director, like what Scott is, maybe even division director. You don't have to start at director. There are other roles that I'm going to be looking for next year. But if I see that somebody's a club advocate and they help to bring a club to distinguished, I'm thinking that they're in line for a district leadership role. Okay.
Absolutely.
Here's some information. Yeah, here's some information that Lisa had. I updated Division A. I'm only going to show you the Division A slide. And she had sort of tranched this so that you could see how many clubs were between 18 and 19 members. They've got a couple. Clubs between 13 and 17, and clubs less than 12. And actually the numbers improved from when she did this in February. In less than 2 entire months, in about 7 weeks, the number of clubs that are allowed to get an advocate have been reduced, as well as the number of clubs allowing to get a coach. So that tells me that the coaching and the advocates that we have there are doing their job. Now, if you look over here at theirs, look at these DCP points. You only
They're
need
doing
5
great.
DCP points to be distinguished. All of these clubs need 20, and that's a good place to head. This one has 19 members. They only need the one more. This one has 17. They only just need the 3. 4 is very doable. This one needs 1. This one needs 6. That's a little bit further, but they all need 20 members, and they all, if they get to 20 members, they will have 5 or more DCP points, and the ones who are 7 will be select distinguished, these 2.
Right. But the
Yeah.
thing is, the RELEX or the RELX won't be distinguished if they stay at 14 or 19.
Correct. They can have 7 DCP points. They could have 9 DCP points
But they
or
won't be
10 even.
distinguished. Yeah.
They won't be distinguished because they don't have the prerequisite of these required 20 folks. So when you select one, we'll have this information available. If you select a club to be an advocate, then we can tell you what the challenge is going to be, and we can help you with the open houses to get to these members up from 19 to 20 or 17 to 20, whatever it is. I have personally signed up 4 members at a meeting, and it was the meeting before our open house.
Mm.
And we signed up 2 more at the open house. So it's highly possible. Just keep the meetings fun, keep them happy, prepare ahead of time, and don't be doing rolls at the last minute in front of everybody to the hilt. I mean, 1 or 2 is fine. 5 or 6 is a little bit disheartening. So I think that, in my opinion, the work before the meeting is so important. Putting the agenda together and getting everybody to sign up and committed to roles, and then having that fun atmosphere and making sure that you actually ask them. And here's one thing I recommend to advocates and everyone. Don't ask people how they liked the meeting. I know a lot of people say that that's what you're supposed to do. In fact, Toastmasters, I think, has it in their closing the sale material. How are they supposed to react to that? Of course they're going to say they liked it. They don't want to hurt your feelings. And they don't have anything to compare it to. If they've never been to a Toastmaster meeting, how can they tell you how your meeting was? You could ask them, if they had a good time. But the thing that I ask them, the question I ask them is, do you have any questions about Toastmasters? And invariably, the first question they ask me back is, how do I join? I'm so glad you asked that. I will get with you afterwards and I'll show you everything you need to do. Don't start explaining it. Say you'll get together with them later. But time and time again, that has been their question back. And I love it. Some of them might have a few other, kinds of questions, but typically that's the one that you get back. So any questions on the status or how that works with the number of members and the DCP points?
Hey, Kathy, this is Scott. Jen had a question about, are any of those resources available for clubs below 12 members that already have a coach? I guess, Jen, when you
Yes.
say of those resources, which resources were you referring to?
On the last slide, like the open house materials, and I forget what else already. Yeah, the
Yeah.
open house kits, marketing materials, club quality materials.
Okay. And coaches too.
Okay.
There you go. Thank
Good
you
to
for
know.
asking that. You're helping us improve the slides.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
We
And
wouldn't ignore the coaches.
I can follow up afterward about that.
Ask
But
question,
I was
get
just curious.
answer, change the standard by asking questions. That's great, Jen.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So here were some numbers as of February 7th to let you know how the whole program's working. We had 184 base clubs. We've now gotten more than that because we've added some new clubs and we've reinstated 1 club. So we're really happy with the way that's going. We now have a 1.8% growth of new clubs in the district. So we're positive. This as long as everybody renews their April dues. And we'll find out later on this week if they did. The number of clubs between 18 and 19 was 11. The number between 13 and 17 was 55. So that's a third, almost a third. This 13 to 17 is where we really need to focus. We're thinking that 18 and 19, they'll just need 1 or 2 more members. They can do an open house and get those and be squared away. But this is, we really, 13, they're almost to 12. And we really need to get these clubs going, and there's 55 of them. The clubs below 12, there's 61, and it's actually lower than that now. And actually, Toastmasters International gives us stats as to how many coaches they have. They know how many clubs have 1 coach and how many have 2. You can have 2 club coaches. We don't recommend 2 advocates per club. We recommend 1 advocate per club. because that advocate is the leader, and they don't have as much to do as a coach, but they still have the same timeline. A year and a half typically is what it takes. If you start early in the Toastmaster year in July or August, the first 2 months of the Toastmaster year, you can pretty much get them to distinguished by the next year. But if you start being a club advocate, let's say this month in April, you've only got a couple of months left in the Toastmaster year to get them to distinguished. But it would be good to get them to know them and get the program started. And I would also, keep an eye on their officer elections, because the stronger the officers are, the better the club is going to be. And if they sort of downplay their officer elections, you can suggest that they select officers that are going to work with you to help the club be successful next year. And the very first thing you do that beginning of the year is you go to officer training and you build your club success plan. And that's going to make all the difference in the world, that club success plan, because then you hold people accountable. I just got done reading this leadership book, and it says that people love to be accountable. If people are accountable and they know what their expectations are and they have clear goals, then they're going to be successful and they're going to be pumped when they make it to the goal. How many times as a football player jack that football down, sometimes getting called for unsportsmanlike contact because he's so darn happy he reached the end zone? That's the way we need to be feeling about our Toastmasters success. We got the club to the point where people were engaged, people were getting education awards, and they were moving through the curriculum and improving themselves. That's what this is all about. So we have to have numbers to measure success. You have to have a gold line at the end of 100 yards. And I don't know of any other way that human beings respond so much as to have the measurement. So the Distinguished Club is the measurement for the advocates. Here's the committee. Right now, we've got Kathy Hayes over in Division A, Carol Cormelink, who's signed up more Toastmasters than anybody I know. Paula Riley over in G, and Brad Craig, who is also a past district director from California. Dharma, who's over in Division H, he's an area director and he's really great. And your name here, I think Lisa was trying to pump this up. If you don't want to be an advocate, maybe you can be on the team. So Lisa Lee at Scotts.com, she's an engineer over at Scotts, and she can get you connected with a club. And here's the club advocates that she has so far. Because Lisa Lee couldn't make it today, she didn't have this updated, but we do have several club advocates that are working different clubs, and it's starting to move the needle. We're starting to move the numbers. This is the second year we've done it, and we went from one club advocate last year that was experimenting with things to all these club advocates. So if you're interested in being a club advocate, then what I would like for you to do, if you wouldn't mind, is put your email address in the chat line, and Scott can make sure that he gets an email over to Lisa Lee and she'll contact you. I think that's probably the fastest way to do it. I'm going to change over to the Toastmasters website now, and then we're going to talk about open houses. While I'm doing that, let me know if you have questions.
Yep.
I have a question.
Sherry
I
or
always
Jen
have questions.
Yep, go ahead. Go for it.
Are there any requirements to be a club advocate? For example, I am a part of a club that is under that 12 membership number. So, would it be appropriate for somebody like me to even be an advocate?
Well, what I would do, I think, is then call you a coach. Do they already have a coach?
We do.
Well, you're already in the club though, right, Jen? That same club? Are you a
Oh,
member of
that's
that
right.
club?
I'm in the club. Thanks.
Wait, so
Are
I'm
you?
under the impression is if you were an advocate, you would advocate for a different club.
No. If you can advocate for a different club, but you can also be a member of the club. It doesn't matter
Oh, I see.
not.
Okay.
If you're a coach, you have to coach a different club, a club that you're not in
Yeah.
when you're assigned.
Okay.
So which club were you interested in?
Well, I I just no. My understanding was you would be an advocate. Like I'm kind of seeing as advocates and coach on a similar level. It's just it depends on the number of members in the club that you are coaching or advocating for. I thought that this was always like you're going to a new club and advocating or coaching them. I I didn't realize like if you become an advocate, usually that's for your own club.
It
Like,
could be for your own club, but it doesn't have to be.
okay. I was always under the impression that it would be for a different club. And now I'm hearing you say that most advocates maybe are for their own clubs. But anyway,
No,
my question was,
I don't.
We
I'm
do
not.
have that, but
I'm not seeing
let's
that play
say
out. We just, because
okay.
D40 is running this, we're running the incentive and we're running the awards. We eliminated, because we could, the requirement that you not be a member of the club if you're a club advocate. We removed that requirement. For a club coach, you're not allowed to be a member when you're
Right.
assigned. Now, some club coaches end up joining the club. I, for one, have done that. I have coached clubs informally without getting the coach credit. I
Hmm.
probably should have submitted my name, but I didn't. Um, I had a club that was going to close its doors and they had talked to HR and HR agreed, and I sat down with their officers and I said, I want you to talk amongst yourselves and think about what is going to happen to your capabilities if you don't have a Toastmasters club versus if you do have a Toastmasters club. How are you going to improve your communication and leadership skills without a club? So they got together without me and they came back and they said, Kathy, we're going to have a club. It's really busy at work, so we're going to move to once a month. And I said, okay. And then I joined the club. And the reason I found out they weren't meeting was because I tried for 2 meetings to contact them for an area club director visit, and they didn't respond. So I went to the club meeting, and there was no meeting. And I contacted them, and
Oh.
I said, I don't think you're meeting. What's going on? So we went from no meetings in a 3-month period to now they're at 18.
Wow. That's
Yep.
awesome.
And they're very excited and they're having new members all the time. And I even went to evaluate one of their members giving a speech at their college. They were doing a presentation for their college and professor and their peers. And they also got they got credit for the speech, for Toastmasters. And
Yeah.
the professor was, glad I was there. He welcomed me and I did the evaluation and I gave it back to her and then I left. I didn't watch the other folks, but that is what Toastmasters is about. Helping somebody with not only just their Toastmaster speeches, but with their schoolwork and their speeches at work. I've also done reviews for people before they gave speeches at work, and they came back and says, "Oh, I'm so glad I talked to you before I went." Um, their boss is really thrilled about the things they threw into it, and now their boss is going to have them do those workshops more often. So
That's
those are the
awesome.
kind of things I think that keep people coming back and helping each other. Now that
Yeah.
person that I helped is going to help someone else, and it just ripples. So this thing I'm showing you here is the um, on the Toastmasters International website. And I don't know if you've ever been here before. You don't even need to sign in. But this Toastmasters here is actually, this logo is a home logo. I discovered it. So I'm going to click and go all the way back to where you sign in. As soon as it gets there, this little dot right here is telling me it's working. So you can see how your club is doing. And a lot of times clubs will actually copy this and put it onto their handouts. One club I know puts it on the back of their Toastmaster agenda. Every club meeting, you always see where they are in the club performance goals. As you can see, they've got pathways added now here. So they've
yep.
got the old club goals and they've got the new club goals. And to help you understand, for the DCP this year, you can have any of these, be a point. So you could switch all the way over here. Now, the 4 level 1 awards are not equivalent or replacing the 2 CC awards. Not at all. What they're saying is that you can have any of these and you can have any of these. Okay? So what we're doing for District 40 now is we're supporting and cheering all the clubs on to have 4 level 1 awards by the end of June 30th this year. That'll give them all 1 DCP point. That will give them 4 people who can then mentor the rest of the club get through level 1. So we're setting up folks to move ahead to become mentors for folks who are going to start pathways later on. That makes sense? So that should help you get to your goals. Now the club goals down here, the 4 new members, the officers trained, the dues, renewals, all the administrative stuff. A lot of clubs, all of this is the 9 and 10 are done. 9 and 10 are in. You can't do anything else to get them. You've either, if you look over here, 10A and 10B, you can tell whether they've done it or not. The new members, of course, we can do that all the way to the end of the year. The club goals, if you think about it, there are 6 of them, and there are 12 months in the year. So on average, every club should be submitting a goal every other month. That should be submitting, I'm sorry, an award every other month. We tend to, in a lot of clubs, cram all our awards in on June. And some people like to take that year, and that's just been their cadence. And I don't think it's going to change. I'm going to get out of it and try to come back in. Now, while I'm doing this, to talk about open houses, I think I'm going to get out of this other stuff just to see if that'll help. There's an open house webinar next Wednesday starting at 8:30. David Hill is going to be doing that. He's gone around the district doing a workshop on club culture and open houses. And the open houses, a lot of times folks think of as big events and a lot of hoorah, food, lots of advertisement. Some clubs have spent a lot of money on them. Then other clubs think of it as every meeting is an open house. You've got those 2 extremes. I like the happy middle, where it's not so much that you're doing a bunch of extra stuff for the open house, but you are doing some promotion up front. You've got to invite, and let the club demonstrate what it is that the meetings are about. If you invite people and try to fix them and say, oh, Toastmasters will do this for you, Toastmasters will do that from you, you really need this. What you're telling them is you are lacking. You got something that needs fixed. Just invite them and say, it's a lot of fun. I have a ball. I've learned a lot. Just do that. Invite them. Make sure they understand all the benefits, and then let them look at the club. I had one person join a club one time because I actually admitted I had my brother in the club. And so she signed up with her $2. She's 2 daughters. She says, I like this because it's a family club. You never know what is going to attract them to the club. So here we are at the Toastmasters International site, and you go to Leadership Central and Distinguished Performance Reports. And it's working, yay! And you come down to Region 5. We're all in Region 5. And then you click on District 40. I clicked on it. It doesn't matter where in the row you click. You just click on it. And it's thinking. Let me try. Double click. I stand corrected. Double click. And then you get the little circles. And it's going to go to District 40. And here's our base, 185. We don't know how many distinguished clubs we have yet because they don't start counting distinguished clubs until after all the April 1st dues are in. if that makes sense. So
Right.
you won't know as a club advocate or a club coach whether you've hit your distinguished goal until after they have gotten the April renewals, because it's only the active clubs that are active at the end of the year that can be dubbed distinguished. So if that helps you with your understanding the timing of this whole thing. Our goals for this year is to have 191 paid clubs. We've got 188, and we've got 2 of them that are getting ready to charter. So we're only 1 club away, and we've got that in the pipeline too as well, some others. So we're hoping that we've got these this goal taken care of. Here's the payments. We're about in the middle of the pack. I looked and we were like 50.9% tile in the world, so we're right in the middle of things. Some of the payments are late. I looked and saw how many clubs hadn't turned theirs in, and sometimes it's just a check that got stuck in corporate accounting. This distinguished clubs, we got a base of 85. To be a distinguished district, we need to have 74. This is my goal. This is my personal, this is my Kathy Donovan's box. And I'm the only one that has this box. So for the district, we need 84 select distinguished and 93 presidents for presidents. And you would need all of these for presidents distinguished. For presidents distinguished, you'd have to have this whole roll done. We're going for distinguished right now. This is what we're going for. And I was looking at the numbers today, and we've got a lot of clubs that have a lot of points. And you could see that a lot of the clubs that were in the club advocacy range in Division A are actually fairly close to being distinguished. The big thing is membership, and that's why we're so focused on the open houses. I looked back at the last 5 years in the district, and the years when we got the membership numbers, we were distinguished. The years we did not get the membership numbers, we got all the other numbers. We got distinguished clubs. We didn't get the membership for the payments or the distinguished clubs, because the membership is a prerequisite for the distinguished club. So then you come down here and you collapse all this, and you can look at the division you're in, and if you're interested in a certain club, is anybody interested in a club? I can look it up. We can see what all they got to do. You can key it in the chat if you want.
I mean, you can feel free to look our club up, but it won't be pretty.
Okay, what club is it? What division?
D.
D?
As in dog. Yep.
Okay, what's
Area 35.
What's the club?
Tostados.
Area 35, okay.
Cincinnati
Tostados.
Tostados.
Okay. Hey, you guys are a new club. What do you expect? Okay.
We've been around for 2 years. Does that count as new?
Okay. Well, not too bad. So the membership to date is 11, and that's your base from last year, so you didn't lose any. That's great. Required is 16, so you just need 5 more members. So that's doable. You got 3 goals met. That you're more than halfway there. That's great. You got a leadership award. Oh, good for you. Look at this. 4 and 6 officers. So you're doing it right. So
and how many
you just got,
people are on this
2
call?
more.
Are you all interested in joining Tostados, or just kidding? And anybody listening to this webinar, this recorded webinar, feel free to join our club. We would love to have you.
I love it. Okay. No, radio commercial.
Jen is worth joining their club for.
Oh, thanks, guys.
So you've only got 2 more goals to meet and 5 members. And you can do that. I just told you guys, I brought in 6 members in a period of 3 weeks in one club. You can do it.
And we're planning an open house for April 30th, so fingers crossed.
Great promotion.
Yeah, we get that.
I am going to put a name in here, Jen, for you. Don DeHoff. And Scott, while I'm talking, can you look up Don DeHoff's phone number and put his email there and contact him? He is our public relations manager for the district, and he understands the needs of the clubs to advertise. He's got a list that the district bought of media outlets, newspapers, radios, television statements, etc. And so all you need to do is tell him you're in Cincinnati, and he will give you all the media outlets in Cincinnati, and you just send them a press release for your open house. Okay?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's awesome.
You can do that at home with a cup of coffee and your bunny slippers on.
That's great. That's great.
Is there anybody else that wants me to look up I think MML and Sherry can't verbally talk.
Real quick, can I just ask one more question while we're on our page here?
Sure.
So we have 3 goals met. As long as we meet 2 more and get 5 members, then we become distinguished, right? So
Correct.
I think Francisco is getting ready to give us one of his awards, and I can't remember which one that is, but I think it's one of the, oh gosh, I don't know if it's advanced communicator.
That sounds
Anyway, like,
good. That'll give you a
that
point.
would give us a point. Okay.
Yep.
So then you'd have
So,
4. And then if you've got the 5
Membership.
members,
Yeah.
you'd get this point right here. So if you get the point,
Okay.
the 5
And
members,
you'd
you'd
be
get
only, if you
that's
got
good.
6, you'd get
Too.
2. If you got 6 members, you'd get 2 points.
Just from that alone.
Just
Okay.
from that alone, you get
Yep.
DCP. You can get a DCP without Francisco's credit if you get 6
Okay.
members.
All right. Guess we have some goals to
Right.
reach.
And hopefully you don't lose any. Hopefully you shouldn't lose any of those 11 that you have now.
I'll knock on wood.
Yeah.
Hope not.
Even if you lost 1, you'd still be okay. Even if you lost 1, got 6 more, you'd still be at 16. You'd still be at
Okay.
you plus 5 from your base.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then if you
that
do
makes
that,
sense.
you would need Francisco's advanced.
Yep.
If you got the 5, you would need Francisco's advanced, and then you're good.
Correct.
Okay. Good to know. This has been helpful. Thank you.
And so the 4 level 1 awards, this is the DCP point I'm encouraging for clubs, especially the brand new clubs. The brand new clubs cannot do 1 through 6. They won't even have that available, right? They're not in the old program. All the brand new clubs that we just chartered need to do these right here. So they need to start off with this point here. Now, the neat thing about new clubs is they will give you the club officer list on time, even though, it's in the middle of the year. They will give you membership renewals due on time. So for administration, you automatically get this point the minute you become a new club. The training, we train anyway, but this is all also forgiven. So, and actually the brand new clubs don't go into my box where I need to get 74 clubs. Those numbers were established at the beginning of the year because it's not fair to ask a brand new club that hasn't even seen their first full year to be a part of this. We have, though, had clubs, and I did it. I helped charter, and I was the president of Dublin Advanced Toastmasters. We chartered in September, and we were presidents distinguished by Joan. But we had a lot of advanced Toastmasters, and everybody in the club had already been a Toastmaster, and they knew what they were doing. So we just had an excellent team that, we got several DTMs. In fact, one year, Dublin Advanced Toastmasters, I think, had 6 leadership awards.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, we only need 2.
Yeah, you only need 2. You wasted 4.
That's what somebody said to me, and I couldn't believe they said that. I'm saying, what do you mean we wasted it?
They got it. It's
People getting their achievements. That's what this is all about.
That's what it's about, not necessarily the DCP points. Don't sandbag for next year. Get it now, right?
Right. In my mind, these are just, a bar. These are minimums, and there are other goals. There are goals. You could have a goal of having a fun Halloween party. You could have a goal of someone doing a speech at a festival. I mean, you could do other goals that have activities that happen outside of Toastmasters, and that's fine too. It's just these are the goals that Toastmasters has determined that will measure whether your club is successful or not, and whether your club is geared to continue on and stay alive.
Kathy, just doing a time check. It's 9:30, but wanted to just
I think we're ready to wrap up.
Maybe a wrap up here.
Yep. So we'll do the club advocacy thing, I think, one more time. Feel free to send Scott and I an email and let us know whether you think this was worth it. If we can do any improvements, we're always looking for feedback. And we're glad you joined us tonight. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Kathy. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Jen. Have a great
Have a good
evening,
night.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.